Declan Brennan gets us underway in frame one.
Yeah, he just slightly came across that to start, 𝗍𝗃𝗍, but I mean, to be honest, Mark, I mean, from the outlook, I'm not surprised that these two are actually going deep in the tournament. I've been really impressed with 𝗁 since he's gone pro, as to how he's settled. He's been like a duck to water, because a lot of the pros that are coming up, they do have a good run in certain events and then go quiet in the next. 𝗁 has been seriously consistent for a first pro. As for 𝗍𝗃, I mean, 𝗍𝗃 is just non-stop playing at the moment. I mean, I know he's moved to Liverpool, he's made that life change. You know, he's starting to do coaching, so he's fully immersing himself in the sport now, which is why he's definitely holding his place as one of the world's elite at the moment. So it's an interesting matchup. I don't know if these two have played before, but very different game styles.
We were talking about this earlier. There's a real correlation between the people who are putting the time in and what they're getting on the table. Jimmy Croxton, another one that's been doing a lot of coaching and spending a lot of time out playing, makes such a difference. As you say, just immersed in the game all the time. That was always a tough shot. Top pros make those look easy down the rails, but playing from that distance, that was never a gimme.
Yeah, 𝗁 will want to make a quick start here. He made a very quick start in his last round, obviously playing another one of the elite and Phil Harrison. Obviously, Phil can be such a tough player to beat from behind. Obviously, 𝗁 took that first set early, and even when Phil bounced back, you allow yourself kind of that second chance to get momentum. Against someone like 𝗍𝗃, if you fall a set behind, you know it's going to be a very, very long day to be able to really try and gain any kind of hold in the game again. So, just be interesting to see how the early exchanges go, but already, in my mind, that's one chance missed for 𝗁.
Yeah, and I'll be the same in his mind. He knows the importance of that good start. Not what Declan wanted. He could almost have been retrieved there had that red fallen in. Now he's got himself into a bit of a spot.
Yeah, this is big trouble, because all of 𝗁's reds are out in the open. There's nowhere to hide. Tell you what, he had a bit of luck here. Don't think he has. Yeah, I think if 𝗁 can see the red over the middle pocket, or over the bottom, then the one in the middle has a big pocket past the yellow.
Just caught that a bit thicker than he wanted. Tricky queuing over like that. He couldn't really risk trying to do too much with the cue ball.
Yeah, it's tough as well, because obviously with these fine cloths, the tables slide a little bit more as well. I don't know if 𝗁 would have anticipated for that, but yeah, he's just had to have a bit of a swing, and he's had a bit of luck.
What a result he's had there. Not only has he flicked the ball, but look at the position of the other two. That could not have turned out better. He could have played the shot he wanted with ball in hand. He couldn't have got it that good. See Declan's reaction to that. He's got to make it count, though. It's important that he gets these last balls down. Well, there's some scrappy moments in this frame, but that piece of fortune at the end is exactly what 𝗁 wanted. In a frame, it looked like he'd had a couple of chances let go. Let's have a look at that. Everything's going on in that shot.
I mean, if anything, that's actually even better for 𝗁 than if he were to go and break dish the first frame. The reason for that is because that then lives in Declan's head. It's not the way you want to win a frame. Obviously, I'm sure 𝗁 would be a little bit frustrated that he didn't take it out at first try, but just those ones where both players have had a bit of an opportunity. If you take them, it just gives you that little bit more edge.
There's that degree of embarrassment when you win a frame like that, but I think he'll be happy to accept that for the benefit of winning the first frame. It's his break in the second, so chance to immediately add to it. Well, for a moment it looked like he was going to go dry, which, given how hard he hit that, would have been incredible.
It's a beautiful break and a great split on the reds.
It's all about the power there, wasn't it? You see, he threw his shoulder into that. He could do with finding a break clearance here. I mean, we can joke about the way he won that first frame, but you can't expect to make too much progress in the match playing like that. He needs to start winning in one visit.
Just some signs here that Zach's going to have to kind of teeth into the cue ball a little bit on this table. The Rasson does play a bit differently to the outer arena tables, so I know Zach hasn't been on it yet. So just needs to bed it in quickly. That you see there, immediately he's lost the cue ball again. And this time he is in big trouble because he actually can't see any of the reds that are over pockets. He can only see the long one. Or it's a very, very fine cut, which, when hampered, is probably as tough as the long red itself.
Can you imagine with the ball split as well as they were, that there was any spot in the middle of the table where he wouldn't have a shot at something? To his credit, he hasn't allowed the frustration to show on his face. He's just got down and tried to play the safety shot.
It was what won Zach a lot of games on the Challenger Series last year, was that obviously a lot of players kind of feel inclined when they're at this standard to go for the clearance every single time, whereas Zach was more than happy to kind of rein back, you know, try and gain an oust or possession. But I mean, that is unbelievably unlucky from Declan. How's that stayed out?
See every part of the pocket apart from the bottom of it. Right now, the chances are coming thick and fast for Zach. Just wants to tighten up the cue ball control, as you say, and you could see him getting quite dangerous. He knows he's not going to keep getting this many chances through the match, so he just needs to enjoy it where it's happening and just try and get far enough ahead. Qualification round still being played to the same format, so it's the best of 3 set match. Each of the sets a race to 5. 30 seconds you can see in the set clock at the bottom. That resets each new set. 30 seconds on the shot clock for the first part of the match. And the last 10 minutes of each set down to 15 seconds. Slightly unusual format with the timing. It's the only ultimate pool event we have where the shot clock goes up and down. Normally it's the longer 30 seconds and then the quicker bit at the end. Here you can have quick at the end of one set, then you're back to the longer 30 seconds in the next set again. Keeps it varied for the players.
Allows those shifts in momentum as well, because the longer shot clock, out of these two players, is definitely going to suit Zach more. Zach is a lot more, I don't want to say he's more methodical than Declan, but Zach is a very methodical player. You know, as I say, has a very good safety game and kind of flips between the two. Declan can just clear up in less than a minute, you know, quick finishes, easy going, likes to flow. So I'm sure we'll see a bit of a difference when this changes to a 15-second shot clock, obviously depending on the state of play.
Yeah, it's a very interesting format for the swings in momentum. I mean, that's obviously what the format's designed to account for. Makes it interesting to watch. You're never really out of it because in any individual set, you can't be that far behind in a race to 5. Usual principles apply there. Getting off to a good start in the way that Zach has is clearly useful. I think what Declan's probably thinking to himself here is that there've been some scrappy moments in those first 2 frames. It's not like he's been blown away, so he doesn't really need to worry too much. It's not been a whole lot wrong, so he knows that he's going to get some chances.
I mean, Deck won't be worried at this point. I mean, 2-0 in a pro standard game now really doesn't mean a lot. You know, all it takes is one change of the break and you're back at 2-all. So Declan will just be looking at this point, just going, well, if I take my chances, I'll put the pressure on and whatever happens, happens.
Especially the last season and a half Deck's had. He's been a top player for a very long time. Winning the very first ever Ultimate Pool event, but he's Ultimate Pool Pro event, but it just seems to have lifted it up the last year or so. Just playing a bit more, just a little bit more consistent.
Well, I mean, hard work and reward comes to the players that play the most. And I mean, I can tell you that Declan last weekend was actually back down here. He was in Sussex doing a charity event. obviously for us, called the 𝗨𝗽𝗱𝗵𝗵𝗑𝗲, which Declan went on and won. And there was a lot of pool that weekend. I think there were about 7 rounds he had to win it. You know, he came all the way down, played in about 5 or 6 different events that weekend. And then on the Monday, he went all the way back up to Liverpool, started practicing again, and then came all the way back down on the Friday, which is round trip. I don't know how many miles it is, but it's probably about 8 hours round trip that he's done twice just to keep playing pool.
Yeah, really putting the hours in. As we cut over to the second feature table, Joe Prince at the table tied 1 set apiece with Sean Sharkey and tied 1 frame apiece in this deciding set.
I think that's a good matchup, those two. I think both have similar game style, but and actually have very similar form as well in professional. Joe was queuing really, really sweetly in the first set. I went and watched over that game, but I know how good a starter to the season Sean's had as well. So it'll be interesting just to see who comes out on top of this. But just going back to my point here, Mark, obviously Dec wouldn't have been worried about that 2-frame lead. And now he's got the opportunity to level up again.
It's only small things, but the fact that he was down at this venue so recently and has played a lot on these tables, it just, even if it's just a psychological thing, it can't be a bad thing for him. He's got positive memories, obviously, from the win as well.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't this venue. It was just a venue that was about 15-20 minutes down the road. But it's that thing of your body settles into a climate a little bit in terms of the fact that you're obviously travelling around. Your body kind of gets used to that, and that's the main thing. I think some players, I mean, a lot of the players, I suppose, probably from the north, you know, probably aren't used to travelling so much because a lot of the events that we have are in Bolton, in Wigan. Obviously, this is a bit of a change being in the southeast. So not a lot of players probably were used to that, but because Declan's kind of timed it right, it really looks like he is in a good bit of form at the moment. And as I say, in the space of no time, he's gone from 2-0 to 2-all.
Yeah, this is what he does, isn't it? Just looks so assured when he's in amongst the balls in that kind of position. And he's won the 2 fluent frames, whereas Zach's won the 2 scrappier ones. Not necessarily read anything into that, but I think Declan will be happy that he's got things back onto level terms, just weathered that small blip at the beginning of the match.
Yeah, this is the thing. The last 2 frames have suited Dec down to a T. They've been open. He's just been able to kind of steamroll through them. And Zach really needs to get a reply, I feel. I feel like if Zach stays ahead, you do start to kind of dig into Declan a little bit, but I think the moment Dec kind of gets his grip on the lead, I think it's going to be very hard for Zach to turn that around.
Well, thunderous break, and more than half the balls make their way to the top of the table, but none find a pocket. Struggle to critique much about the way he actually struck that. It's just the outcome he's not going to love.
Yeah, this isn't the easiest out for Zach here, going reds. That was the red that I was worried about, and I tell you what, he's seriously unlucky if he can't see the red. He might be okay with the red into the bottom left. If he can see it, it's a good opportunity.
Knew he had to make something happen. There was no point taking reds if he couldn't get that cluster open. Good chance this now. All the balls have got a pocket.
Yeah, this is all about pattern because there's a lot of yellows that are surrounding the reds that he needs to land on in pretty particular fashion. There you go. So he really needed to hold that, and because of the pace of the table and because of the yellows that were surrounding it, he didn't have much room for error, and all it's taken is a couple of inches out, and all of a sudden this is a tricky little cutback plant.
Yeah, that previous shot, he kind of played the right shot but just didn't quite execute properly. Now Declan's going to be looking at this thinking this is a good spot for the counter clearance.
These yellows are in a way that they kind of unlock themselves.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Once you pot one, you clear the path for the next one. Quite a good shot there. Wanted to get on this one sooner rather than later to the right centre. So it was going to be halfway difficult to land on.
Yeah, you always want to make sure you land nice on those yellows that are in short position, because if you just land an inch off, it becomes so much harder to land onto the next ball properly. But because he had the two yellows around there, it really fitted into the pattern and it made it a lot easier to make it work.
None of this is going to be coming as a surprise to Zach. It is a reminder of how quickly things can change. It's coming up to 13 minutes played in this match. 5 frames down already. And what was at one stage a 2-0 deficit turns into a 3-2 lead for the Destroyer. Declan Brennan up and running now. Let's get over to the other table where Joe Prince is 2-1 to the good in this deciding set. And it's Prince at the table. Although, as you can see, not a perfect position by any means that he's in.
That's a brilliant shot from Joe. It's not always easy to generate power when you're queuing over a ball like that, but he's got such a kind of finite cue action. It just allows the cue to really get to where it needs to.
The fact he's bumped this right over the middle as well is so ideal. If that stops an inch shorter, it's completely different. Gives himself the chance of the out. So we come back to Zach breaking dry.
Yeah, here we go. This feels like the beginning of the turn where Zach had those early opportunities. And okay, he took the first 2 frames, but then didn't really take advantage of the couple of other chances he's had since. And it almost feels like watching Declan at the moment. It's almost like that dark cloud comes over the arena, and all of a sudden it's like Declan's presence has arrived.
It really looks like he fancies it, doesn't he? He just looks very in control of himself.
I don't know if he'll be happy with that. Just the red to the right middle, he's just limited his options slightly. It still fits in the pattern okay, but I know how particular Declan can be sometimes when he's going for these clearances. There you go, he's having a look at it now. Probably land on it with the next red. Probably play onto it now. There you go. But he's a bit hampered with the yellow, so this isn't the gimme.
Lands an inch to the left, it's an easier shot to guarantee the position. You may just have to sacrifice a bit of that now, just focus on the pot. As you say, when you're queuing over a ball, if you start trying to force it with too much spin, you can just turn the ball over.
Yeah, he just went solely for the pot, and now he's hampered himself on the next red, so it's amazing just how that little difference seems to cause certain players a little bit of an issue.
What he has got going for him is that this is quite a logical pattern. It doesn't require swinging the keyboard around too much. So he always knew he had this saver ball over the left centre. This recovers pretty prime position. This is okay, just got one more shot to play here. The yellow below the red is going to come into play if he just plays it plain ball.
It was a little bit of a roundabout way, but I mean, Declan's handled it really, really well. I mean, at the end of the day, I think with a lot of the top pros, we're never going to question their potting ability. It's just the cue ball a little bit, but if you can just pot your way out, pot your way out.
Right now, he's putting his way out quickly as well. 2-0 has turned into 4-2 in the blink of an eye. And it feels like Zach's been sat in that chair for most of the last few minutes.
It looks like Joe might have broken down on that final red in in the frame we watched previously, and it looks like 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗲𝗃𝗏's about to retaliate with a clearance here, which could do Joe a bit of damage. In the first set, there were just a couple of signs that Joe was just having some issues getting over the line. He did in that set, because he did have quite a vast lead, but just wonder if maybe there is a hurdle to cross here for Joe that Shaun can definitely take advantage of.
Well, they're going to be back on level terms if Shaun can make these last two balls. 2-1 at the moment, so this 8-ball for 2-all in the decider. I'll just stay with this. Declan's gone dry over on the main table. So, Zach in play. Much like his last break, did get plenty of pace into it, just not quite the direction of the balls.
Important for Zach here, just to stamp a bit of authority back on the match. You don't want to lose 5 in a row going into the next set, knowing you were a set down. It's not too bad. I thought he'd been a little bit unfortunate there, but he has got room for this yellow to go into the bottom left, so he can work his way back onto that. He's losing the cue ball still, and that will frustrate him.
That's been the main difference, hasn't it? It's just Deck has just looked so precise with the cue ball when he's been in, whereas Zach just travelling around a bit further than he wants to. Obviously, he's got to get this frame because this is going to be the last frame of the set if he loses it.
Yeah, he's run too far. He wanted to try and land on the yellow to the bottom left then. Now he's got a really awkward cut and no real way to land on the final ball. As he goes for a cannon. He's got the pot. Has he got the position? No.
Yeah, this is awkward. You can see the yellow, but the path to the double appears to be blocked.
As you try and double it into the top right, I don't mean to quote the man, but you probably need to put your Melling hat on here and try and think of some inventive way out, because I think he might have just had an edge there to try and sneak it into that middle pocket. Didn't quite get it. A bit unlucky because he's obviously put the two reds together on the left-hand side, but I think Declan's got an angle to go straight into it, playing the plant into the top right. And there you go.
The fact that there was a ball over that top right just made that a bit easier. If he'd have had to pot that direct, I don't know if he'd have been quite so happy having to play that cannon. So the fact it was a plant just gave him the margin for error. He was able to focus on the cue ball. Good chance now to run out the first set.
Yeah, I mean, once again, it's not a gimme. You've got the reds on the right-hand cushion and the left-hand cushion. Normally, if you've got one, normally you just work it into your pattern. If you've got two, then it means that you've just got to kind of work your pattern a little bit more and make sure that it's more precise. I imagine he's going to use the red over the bottom left to go into one of them, or if not, he may incorporate a double into this clearance.
Both the reds on the left and right side cushions are in a position where they're fairly predictable doubles, so if he does have to do that, it won't be the end of the world. Ideally, you probably don't want to leave a double-double finish if you can help it.
I think players incorporate doubles a lot more into their games now. I mean, I know with the Rassons and obviously the fact that newer cloths and newer tables do slide a little bit more, I think sometimes you see a player shy away, but 9 times out of 10 now a player is comfortable enough that they'll turn around and throw a double in there. If they can get right behind it, they'll play position on it. I imagine Declan's possibly looking at doubling this one on the right-hand side now, because he's got a place to hide the cue ball even. There you go. But he has run too far here. See the little grimace on his face. He wanted an angle to play into the red on the left-hand side cushion, which means he may have to try and land on the double again. as you say, avoiding that double-double. He's going for the snooker.
Well, you can't blame him for that. It's not often when he gets down to the last couple of balls in that kind of position that he has to bail out of it.
Yeah, it wouldn't have surprised me either way if Declan had have gone for that. Yeah, I think in a way I'm surprised Declan didn't go for it, because he had to trust the luck that Zach was going to leave him something, which it's not easy from here. He's still got to land on that double. See it there, I mean, unless it does just drop into the middle pocket. But from camera angle, it looks really tight, doesn't it, Mark?
Yeah, I think that was I suppose that was the advantage of playing a shot like that. He knew Zach was going to have to move the yellow, so gave him a clearer shot at that, which he wouldn't otherwise have had. It's one of those ones where if you're tight behind it, it's all right. If you're not, it's a problem.
Yeah, it's a very good finish from Deck.
Solid performance in the first set. Declan Brennan takes it by 5 frames to 2. That's one of the 2 sets he needs. He's going to have to win one of the next 2. 𝗏𝗃𝗃, meanwhile, frozen away from the table. He's going to have to do it the hard way and win 2 sets in a row. So it was a quick start for Declan Brennan. 1-0 to the good in sets. 𝗏𝗃𝗃 to break off at the beginning of the second set. Reminder, this is a best of 3 set match, so you can effectively reset. 𝗏𝗃𝗃 got off to a good start in the first set and then pegged back pretty quickly once the avalanche started from Declan. But starts obviously at 0 in this set, so just needs to put that out of his mind. It'd be easier to put it out of his mind if he was at the table though. Unfortunately, from his perspective, nothing doing there, so first chance for Declan.
Yeah, not a good start for Zach. What he really needed to do was come out and really settle. I think the thing that massively let him down in the first set was his cue ball. There was just too many times where he was loose with it, and it caused him to kind of avalanche and not land where he needed to. It probably costed him 2 or 3 frames, to be honest, in that first set. And someone like Deck will just pounce on that. Can't give the top players an edge. Zach's had a very, very good weekend, but to piece it together and to really run deep in these events, you've got to be able to kind of tighten up on those issues. And that's a great shot from Deck. Immediately just unlocks an issue.
Never mind just in this match, but you've got to have Declan down as a potential tournament winner. Obviously, just based on who he is, that was always going to be the case. But you look at the way he's playing, just seems to be in the kind of form that we've seen so much of from him recently.
Do you see the difference though, Mark? Obviously, with Deck and a few of the other players now, obviously since the kind of birth of Ultimate Pool and the kind of growth of pool worldwide, players like Declan now are able to tackle this full time, whereas before obviously they would have done it part time with their other jobs. With Declan, because he's now full time on it, you can really see the difference between a player like Declan that is just able to focus on pool as a whole, and players like Zach that are kind of introductory to that level and aren't full time with it yet and are still kind of just learning the ropes a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and yeah, I mean it's definitely the case for all the players that we've seen have dominant spells. I mean, Tom Cousins, it's very easy to look at and think he's that good a player, and seeing the conversation for greatest of all time, he must find the game easy, but actually his success with Ultimate Pool started at a time when he sort of had a bit of a kick in the back and was told to do a bit more practicing, and it was like as soon as he started doing that, he started winning and then enjoyed the practice more, and it all just turns into a sort of virtuous circle at that point. I think for Declan, because he's had such good form recently, the fact that he's able to devote himself to it won't have felt like much of a chore. He'll have enjoyed being around the game because he's getting the results on the table.
I think it also means kudos to those players that are still working outside of pool as well, that are seeing success. I mean, 𝗏𝗏𝘃 obviously winning the British Open. I mean, obviously, Cole wouldn't have been down as one of the favourites for that event. Obviously, Cole does have a deep run in him, and we have seen that consistently over the last couple of years since he turned pro. But I mean, it's a serious achievement to go up against players that are just devoting 40 hours a week to it, when you're kind of having to do it on evenings after shifts and things like that. It really does show where commitment pays off.
Yeah, it was a very interesting result, the Cole win. I mean, it was a popular one. Like, he's obviously an easy guy to root for. He's a very entertaining player. I think it also showed all the players are around that standard what can be done. Exactly the point you're making, that you can't just assume every tournament's going to be won by the so-called big favourites that are at the top of the rankings. Cole had so many glimpses of that promise. He just kept beating good player after good player over the last couple of seasons. The question mark was whether he could do it back to back to back, and he got that consistency within that tournament. The next stage up from that is getting the consistency across lengthy periods of time, like Declan's done, like Tom Cousins have done, where you start really dominating the sport over seasons or multiple seasons.
Deck's not perfect here. That little flick, he might be okay if he can just land on the plant after dropping the yellow in the middle. But it's one of these finishes that you're just chasing it a little bit. He may decide to take the plant on now just to see where the result of the yellow is. Whichever way he plays, whichever order he takes it in. In fact, he's reining back. Yeah, I like that shot. I think Deck knows that he's kind of got Zach where he wants him at the moment. Zach's, in my mind, still not settled properly. And even though he has had some bits of fortune in this match as well, you wouldn't say that Zach at the moment quite looks capable of the awkward finishes.
Yeah, it's a different thing when he comes to the table. With Declan, you're thinking he's bound to clear up from here. With Zach, you think he's plenty capable of it, but it's not happening every time. But that's to be expected. I mean, can't be too harsh, and we're not trying to be at all. He's actually had a really good run. I think he's acquitted himself very well since he turned pro.
I mean, he has had a brilliant season, and he has had a brilliant weekend. It's just that thing of occasionally just the pieces don't come together, do they? And at the moment, it just doesn't look like it's quite happening for Zach in this match. Obviously, still room for change. I mean, it is only 1-0 in the second set, but how anonymous Declan's been all weekend and over the last couple of months, you don't write Zach off, but you think it's unlikely.
Of course, this is the first of 2 chances he's going to have. Zach hasn't lost a match yet in the tournament. This is the part of the draw for people who've just gone straight through winning on the winner's side. So the loser of this match will go into the losers qualifying section tonight. So they'll have another match in the same format. So the second bite of the cherry to qualify for tomorrow.
You just don't want to be that person, though, do you? You're in that final round of qualifying. You've got your 2 chances. You do just want to fly through, because the moment you lose one, not only do you lose the momentum, but then all of a sudden the pressure's on you, because whoever's come through that losers bracket has won a game to be there at least. So you're kind of on that downwards momentum while your opponent's going to be on that upwards momentum. For someone like Zach, you do just want him to blitz through, because if he does that, he stands a really, really good chance. But the moment that the new pros lose a bit of momentum, there probably is still that little bit of loss of confidence. And for someone like Zach, you tend to see it a little bit more as well.
Yeah, 100%. The second chance is always harder than the first. So we bring some big news from around the arena. Brian Halcrow against Sean Story. Brian Halcrow won the first set 5-4, and he's raced into a 4-1 lead in the second set. Another player that's known to be a good player and capable of doing something, but wouldn't have gone into that match as a favourite. Looks like he's going to continue his good day.
I feel like Buzz has been due a run for a little while. There were kind of signs, I think it was at the start of last year, was it when Buzzer beat Tom Cousins in the Champions League? And I think a lot of players looked at that and thought, well, actually, Buzzer looks in really good form. It's poor from Zach.
Yeah, it was a bit ragged, that shot, wasn't it? It wasn't a guaranteed plant, it just seemed to catch it a bit firmer than he wanted.
Yeah, he was stretching to it, and it just looks like he kind of jabbed at it a little bit.
This match is starting to look a little bit one-sided now, isn't it?
I mean, this is, what, 7 in a row from Declan? This is potentially 8.
Even that shot, just perfect control. It wasn't the pot, it's the fact that he's left this low angle. Just naturally drift the cue ball over towards the two reds on the right-hand side to open them up.
Ooh, that's not gone well, though.
Yeah, tried to play it a controlled way and has given it enough in the end.
Once again, Declan's kind of gone wrong in that position where you can't really hide the cue ball either, so it's either going to have to be a really inventive safety or a really inventive pot. Zach's got that yellow obviously towards the bottom right that can be visible from about 75% of the table, and the rest of the space of the table. Good snookering balls and good potting balls for Zach as well, so I think Dec's going to go for a really thin double there and just fly the white around. There you go. Oh, what a pot that is.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
That is ridiculous because he's played with the cue ball as well. I know it's not the easiest red in the world, but to control it the way that he did, I'd love to see him get the finish from here now, but tough red into the top corner.
Yeah, it's a tough red, and if he gets it, it's going to be a tough 8-ball as well.
Floats it in. I mean, this is a ridiculous finish if he pots this 8-ball.
Oh, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant from Declan Brennan.
I mean, that's why he's one of the best in the planet at the moment. He had absolutely no right to get out from where he did when he went out of position, and he found a way. It's what all of the top professionals do. And you can see there, you can just see the glimpse in his eye, that spurs him. And for Zach, that's an absolute hammer blow because he had a great opportunity in that as well, didn't take it.
Such quality there. Got himself in an awkward position, got himself into it and got himself straight back out of it again. And that's what the top players do. And this is looking really difficult now for Zach. He's facing a man who's growing in confidence, starting to play exhibition shots.
I think the one thing that Declan will have a bit of an eye on, though, going into the next round is just that break-off. It's just not worked for him so far. Every other part of his department of his game has looked absolutely spot on. But you can just see there he's a little bit frustrated by that. Declan is one of the players, a bit more than the other pros, that does tinker with that break-off, isn't always happy with it. But this is, you feel like this is Zach's real last chance. You know, he's got to get the breaker serve here, and then he's got to do it again.
Meanwhile, the news from the secondary feature table is that Joe Prince has completed the victory over 𝗠𝗫𝗃𝗃. Got the job done 5-3 in the end in the deciding set. Looking dangerous this weekend, Joe Prince. Yeah. Another dark horse for a title.
Joe's very unorthodox in the way that he cues a lot of the time, especially with his break-off. He kind of almost gears up to it, almost like he's revving up an engine and then goes straight through them. When it works, it's clinical, and Joe has quite a diverse game from obviously where he plays a lot of the American pool as well. But yeah, a victory against somebody like Sean is a good confidence booster because Sean's a tricky customer at the best of times. This has been good from Zach Cooper so far.
Well, it's not a good day for all the Seans because the next update is that Brian Halcrow has completed a 2-0 victory over Sean Story. And that, you'd have to say, is not a result many people would have seen coming. Not suggesting that Halcrow wasn't expected to do well, but Sean Story, always one of the favourites, would on paper have been the favourite for that match. Jumped into the loser's side of the draw, but he will be back in action relatively soon, so he's not out of it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose for Brian at the moment, he's probably looking at ranking points. You know, obviously we've got a bit of a new field that have come through this year, but there is room for players to drop off of the tour, and Brian, I suppose, is one of those players that might be teetering a little bit unless he started to get results. Obviously, starting to show this weekend, but so that's the first real efficient. It's the first one visit finish that Zach's put in this match, which is quite amazing to think that we've played. What's this going to be, the 10th or 11th frame?
Yeah, and he's seen 8 in a row go against him. The 9th time of asking, finally gets one. It's still going to be a tough ask from here, but at least he's got himself something to look at in this match.
Yeah, he needs to start building some positives because, as I say, 3-1 down, second set. You know, he has still got a chance of getting out of this, but once again, it's unlikely. If he is to lose this match, he does want a couple of nice finishes at the end, just to take something into that next game. If you kind of just fly the flag and then go out, then you're not giving yourself a lot going into that next round, which is so important for him. It's a decent break. He's got a red, but he would have wanted yellows, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. This is one of those spots where the performance matters even if you lose. Often if you're getting knocked out of a tournament, you could say it's a bit academic and you've got to wait for the next tournament anyway. But this one, double elimination, and double elimination where you're going to play your next match quite quickly. You want to be in some kind of form going into that second game. If you get absolutely smashed in your first one, it's very hard to regroup quickly enough.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this game beforehand, Zach would have looked at this and gone, there's 2 opportunities to get over the line to get into a really important round for myself. You know, whether you come through the winner's bracket or the loser's bracket, I'm sure at the end of the day the players wouldn't care, but the main point is getting there, which, obviously, Zach may have wasted his first chance unless he can start to run off a few here, which makes the second game all the more important.
Just got a glimmer of a hope here still, though. 3-1's okay.
Oh yeah, but you can't be doing that, Zach. Just took his eye off it, and against someone like that, you just cannot do that.
Just hearing that 𝗂𝗓𝗍 that we saw on this table earlier on has been dumped out. He's lost his second match of the day. 𝗨𝗃𝗃 2-1 victor in that one. 𝗂𝗓𝗍 started his first match on this main arena table so well earlier on. Just got blown away after that, and then a tough comeback game against 𝗨𝗃𝗃. Didn't quite get it done. So many good players. I mean, none of these updates are exactly surprises, but
yeah, I mean, the fact that we're having the conversation that Brian Halcrow winning is quote-unquote a shock. You know, Brian's been around the game at a top level for a very, very long time, which shows the standard that the players are at. You know, 𝗨𝗃𝗃 beating 𝗂𝗓𝗍. I mean, 𝗨𝗃𝗃's won so many different world titles, you probably couldn't carry them in a shopping bag.
Nice shot there, loading up the side to come through the gap of red and yellow. Wanted to come over this side of the table early on, didn't want to leave these right till the end. Just got to play one more shot here. Ball bottom left's obviously fine, just got to pick out the path. A little bit of traffic to get through.
Yeah, he could always use those 2 reds as a little buffer for himself. I think actually the way that he's just nudged that, I think he can pop the black into the bottom left as well if he wants to. Yeah, there you go, he's just played on it there. It didn't go before, but that little nudge on the red allowed it. And I think this has just summed up the game, really. You know, Zach has just had too many different opportunities in the balls where he's not made the most of it, and Declan's cleared up. You know, I wouldn't say that Dec's played absolutely out of this world. I mean, his breaks haven't worked, but he's just done the job because Zach's given him the opportunities to.
Yeah, I think it has helped Declan warm up to this match, the fact that Zach's been a bit profligate with a couple of opportunities. There was obviously a moment at the start of the first set where it was looking problematic for Dec. Zach did win the first 2 frames. I mean, the first one was fortunate, but 2-0 down is still an issue, but it never really let that trouble him. As soon as he got going, he's just been in pretty much top gear ever since then.
This is it now. Declan's been kind of given that free rein, as I say, and then Declan will probably start working on his break, getting that sorted out, and then tomorrow he'll probably just be an animal, and that'll be worrying signs for a lot of players that are left in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose on paper he is the favourite, the number 1 seed out. He was the number 2 seed coming into this. It's not a surprise, but he's reassured us that he is in that kind of form.
There you go, and then he finally makes the ball and look at the split. And the cue ball getting kicked around a little bit, but it won't matter, that ball's gone in. And a decent split on yellows.
This will be the end of his night's work if he can get the job done here. Very civilised finish. Earlier than you often finish at an event like this. Done by not too long after 8 o'clock, he hopes, from his perspective. Come back tomorrow morning for the last 16.
Well, that's the other thing as well, is that, you know, if Declan had lost this, he probably would have been in a bit of late night drama, because then you're waiting on that next match as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's not ideal, because actually the players that are coming through losing the winners qualifier are going to potentially have quite a long wait. There's still quite a lot of early round matches going on that side of the draw. So annoying to have to sit around for a couple of hours and you're sort of dwelling on how you just lost the previous match if you're not careful.
That's exactly the word. Someone like Zach, I know, loves to read into the game. He's very, as I say, methodical. With that now, because he's lost the way that he has to Dec, he will be sat there and made to think about it for hours, which is not ideal. So Zach's probably at quite a big disadvantage actually going into his next game, which probably works in favour of the player that's still playing and they're a couple of matches behind. But overall, this has been very efficient from Dec, and it's going to be a danger going into tomorrow.
Good start from Zach Cooper at the beginning of the first set, but it was a good conclusion from Declan Brennan across the whole of the 2 sets that he won. Very assured performance from the number 2 ranked player, firmly burnishing his credentials to get another Ultimate Pool title. Declan Brennan goes through to the last 16.